Pacer Nation, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast. And the Indiana Pacers have a 2-1 series lead over the Milwaukee Bucks, winning 121-118 in overtime in a thriller. Tyrese Haliburton has the go-ahead shot with 1.3 seconds left, hits the free throw, ends up sealing the deal for the Pacers. There was so much going on tonight, but let's start with this overtime. Crazy stuff is going on, but I'm curious, how are we feeling?
On top of the world. I just think that what we saw tonight, I truly don't think that we're ever going to forget. I don't. This was a moment that will sit with us for years to come. We've been on the end of countless heartbreakers. I mean, LeBron game winners or, the goaltend that they don't call in the past and everything like that. If you stuck with this team over the years, tonight, the basketball gods rewarded you. This is something I will not be forgetting anytime soon.
I mean, it was just such a back and forth game. And really, if you go back to the first quarter, Indiana gets out to a 17-point lead. Everything feels like this is going to be a 30-point win. Dame gets hurt. Obviously, Middleton was questionable coming into the game. And then all of a sudden, the Bucks just kept chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. They take the lead in the fourth quarter. Indiana looked like they're about to blow this game. And it felt like, oh my God, are you serious once again? But the Pacers, they never gave up. They were resilient. They fought to the bitter end. And we get to overtime, Facci, and I'm thinking to myself, how are they going to end up being able to win this game? They had a possession that lasted for almost 2 minutes.
Yep.
They had 5 offensive rebounds in that possession. I think one of them might have been a call to foul or something like that, but it was just constantly being involved here. They don't get a shot on that possession, but they'd kill like 2 minutes of the 5-minute overtime period on one play. Chris Middleton goes down, goes for a dunk. Myles Turner just barely touches him in the back. It's enough to affect the shot. He misses it, but he gets 2 free throws. And then I think it was at the tie game. How did the Pacers tie the game? Do you remember?
In overtime, let's see. So in overtime, there was 10 points scored. It was a little bit of everyone. You had Nembhard hit a basket. That was big.
Yes,
Nesmith
that's what
had
happened.
that three.
So
So
Nembhard hit the basket after Middleton did that, right?
mhm.
He hit that step back to tie the game up. You're right. And so then the Bucks missed, and the Pacers had a crazy play again, and Nesmith hits a buzzer 3 in the corner. And he's been
Couldn't
terrible.
believe it.
He's been terrible shooting wise, not just this game, all series long. He's just not hitting shots.
It was electric because I just felt like when Siakam passed him that ball, it was like a desperation, like someone's got to shoot it. And when Nesmith went up with that, I just, man, I went nuts. And I would trade that little ball of string and the paper clip, from the meme from
Yeah.
SpongeBob for Nesmith any day. Because that shot right there, it made me feel like, all right, you know what? There's no way Middleton can do it again, right? I was wrong. I mean, this game had a little bit of everything. My emotions, Alex, I was a nervous wreck going through these ups and downs. I started thinking, like, just let us have one. And
Yeah.
in the end, Middleton banks it in again, tied up at 118 apiece. Only problem, you left too much time on the clock.
Yeah. I will say this. If we go back to the Nesmith 3, he was 0 of 6 from 3 when he takes this shot. He's shooting Facci a horrific 22.7% from 3 through the first 3 games. Now, Aaron Nesmith once led the NBA in 3-point percentage this season.
Feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, I hated almost every shot he took tonight for the most part. A lot of rush shots, but anyway, we'll get into that later. He hits this one. It's kind of funny. Tyrese Haliburton, 1 of 12 from 3 tonight. He was pushing and pressing a lot down towards the end of the game, too, especially in the fourth quarter. Just couldn't find a look. But I would just say this. The fact that Nesmith steps up and hits that shot, you talked about it. Middleton comes back down because we know Middleton hit the 3 to send it to overtime. He does it again and ties it one more time. And he left 6.7 seconds on the clock instead of just 1.1 that the Pacers had in overtime in regulation. So it gave the Pacers plenty of time, and I love the play design. Let Tyrese Haliburton pick up the steam, come down the court fast, and attack the basket. I felt like the Pacers, in most of the overtime and in the fourth quarter, they were trying so hard to make threes or long twos, and they were not getting any good looks at the basket. So you run this play to get Tyrese ahead of steam going downhill. He gets that little switch up, kind of gets Pat Bev on his heels. Pat Bev fouls him, fouls out of the game. He makes the floater. He hits the free throw. The Pacers go up by 3 with like a little bit of over a second left in the game. And it really just put the icing on the cake and made it that much more difficult for Milwaukee to get another clean look. So I just say that play where Tyrese just went off in that moment right there, had his playoff moment, his moment that we'll always remember. It was just an incredible play design, and I thought a great execution and great for Tyrese to have that moment.
Couldn't agree more. Love the play design because when the Pacers were trying to inbound previously, Haliburton was like in a straitjacket the way they were playing defense on him. There was times where he was not even able to even get the ball. So loved how he had the running start. First, I was worried, is he going to have enough time to be able to get a good look? But yeah, the way he was zigging and zagging, I mean, Pat Bev was truly going back and forth, side to side. That's the second game winner he's now hit on Pat Bev in the past. Love it. And you got to give Patrick Beverley credit on defense. He played really hard. Haliburton had a rough shooting night, but the thing that I could live with and that I love is that he didn't stop shooting. At one point, he was 7 of 21 before he hits that last shot. That was the biggest shot. And that's all we've asked is like we could live and we could live with it if he misses, but don't be afraid to take it. And that moment, him hitting that shot is how you build a legacy. And I'm not talking brick by brick like the shots he was missing, but that's laying down the groundwork into this is your legacy in Indiana. Alex, I wish I was in that crowd. You were there. What was that eruption like when Haliburton hit that and one?
Facci, it was incredible. It was the best game I've been to in my life as a Pacer fan or someone covering the Pacers, right? Like the crowd was incredible, especially from the start. You kept seeing people tweeting about it like, man, this Indiana crowd for a 5:30 tip-off, you can feel it in the building. Everybody was hyped. Everyone was excited. I think they did a great, like even the national anthem was getting a ton of love. When they introduced the starting five, like you couldn't even hear them say the Bucks starting five. They were booing so loud. Everybody was erupting with cheers for Tyrese Haliburton, Andrew Nembhard, Turner. Like the whole group got a lot of love and a lot of praise. Pascal Siakam got a ton to start things out. And then you bring out the most popular woman in the world besides Taylor Swift, Caitlin Clark, bring her out, have her rev it up. The crowd's going crazy. I mean, Anthony Richardson, Colts quarterbacks in the building. Tony Dungy's in the building. You know, the who's of Indiana were here for this game. And you could just feel it. It felt like, man, we are on top of the world. And it kind of got quiet there when the Bucks sucked the wind out of the building. But I will say, the Pacers fan base did an amazing job coming to life in those crucial moments. You could feel the anxiety in the building. Everybody was anxious. Everybody was just like, what is going to happen next? Can the Pacers stop Middleton? 42 points. What's going to happen? And then Tyrese hits the dagger. And Tyrese, his energy tonight from the dunk that he had, the offensive rebound tip slam that he had earlier, like looked like a totally different player. Led the team, like you said, in shots tonight. 22 field goal attempts. And you know what? He had a triple-double, second triple-double of his career tonight. And he happens to have that in his first home playoff game. So just honestly, like you can't say enough about what that crowd was like and what Tyrese Haliburton was like in this game.
You really can't. Honestly, like I mentioned before, I was a nervous wreck to the point where when it was overtime, there was about 15 seconds to go. Maybe it was, I don't know, maybe there was like a minute to go. My wife got a FaceTime from one of her friends. I just hear them talking about some random stuff. I just turned to her. I just gave the look. And she was like, I'll leave. And just like picked up and left. And it was like, not now, babe. Like everything is on the line here. And it was just that moment. I mean, I was standing up, glued to my TV, just saying, please, please give us this one. Like, and for Haliburton to come through like that, you mentioned it, you know, a triple-double. I believe this is only the fourth playoff triple-double for a Pacer. So he's in elite territory. But, I mean, 16 assists. We knew that there would be some special games. We thought maybe, you know, hey, he'll go off eventually. Yeah, he didn't maybe go off scoring wise, but his imprint on this game, it was everywhere. You talked about he was 1 of 12 from 3. It's gross, but the 3 he hit was big in the fourth quarter. Like his shots that he didn't stop shooting. That's what we needed. And this was a night where, you know, Siakam didn't really have it going the way that he had before, and you needed guys to step up. And I felt like in overtime, fourth quarter, guys stepped up. I mean, we talked about Haliburton and all that, but like the big thing that we got to talk about is the second chance points and the offensive rebound. Just to put it in perspective, Alex, they had 32 second chance points. I looked it up. It's the fourth most in any playoff game in the last 25 years.
Wow.
The amount of offensive rebounds, they had 6 in overtime. I
Yeah.
mean, think about how tired these players are at the end of the game. To be able to come up with these offensive rebounds, that's digging deep to say who wants it more. And in this game, when you saw it, you could be a neutral fan, you could be anybody. You watched it and you said, I think the Pacers just want it more.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like in that stretch, we talked about it, like just kind of briefly, kind of skimmed over it. I said like they had a possession for a minute and 40
Yeah,
seconds. Tyrese Haliburton was the one that got the first offensive rebound, and then Andrew Nembhard had like 3 in a row.
he wouldn't quit.
Andrew Nembhard is fighting on the glass with 5 fouls in overtime and
Maybe the
doesn't pick
smallest
it
guy on the
up.
court.
He
Maybe.
was a man amongst boys out there. I mean, Andrew Nembhard was so good in this game, and I go back to what we've talked about with our previews and things like that. And we're really like we're both pretty high on like Aaron Nesmith can be the X factor, but I brought up Nembhard could be the X factor for this team, and I feel like the last 2 games he really has been.
Yes.
I feel like he has been, and we talked about Portis kind of being an X factor for Milwaukee, but I also said they need Chris Middleton to be All-Star Chris Middleton to have any chance to beat Indiana, and he was that
He was
tonight.
all NBA tonight.
The 42 points is a career high for Chris Middleton in the playoffs. So the fact that he was putting this team on his back, and I thought one thing that was really interesting, and I want to bring this up here because I was late to notice, because when you're at the game, there's a lot more going on when you're just watching at home. I will say this. Damian Lillard was guarding Nembhard for the majority of the time he was out there, but they switched it and they put him on Nesmith for a while. And I thought that was a great move by Doc Rivers, because Aaron Nesmith is not the level of screener that Andrew Nembhard is with that not an inadvertent. I'm trying to think of inverted pick and roll. Excuse me. I always mess that word up. Inverted pick and roll. And I thought the Pacers just kind of let Dame play no defense, because they just kind of put Nesmith in the corner for a lot of the offense there, especially in the fourth quarter. But for some reason, like the last few minutes of the fourth and overtime, they put Dame back on Nembhard, and they switched it back up to put Middleton on Nesmith, and maybe Middleton was just tired, so they were trying to save him offensively by doing that. So that makes some sense to me. But Doc Rivers said that Damian Lillard was dealing with an Achilles injury that he re-injured in the fourth quarter after he already had the knee injury that took place in the first quarter. So he couldn't hang with Nembhard, and Nembhard made him pay on the offensive glass. And I just wanted to say, like, I thought that was very, very important to what happened there in that stretch.
We don't win this game without Andrew Nembhard. We don't. I know, obviously, Tyrese hits the unbelievable shot. Myles Turner had 29 points. We'll get to that. Andrew Nembhard was just battling. He was hustling. We talked about the shot that he hit. That was huge to tie it up. But those offensive rebounds just gave the Pacers so many opportunities, and was just like sucking the wind and the life out of the Bucks. And I just felt that seeing that was just like he just wouldn't quit. And those are the type of plays that every single team needs. You need an Andrew Nembhard that's going to dig deep. And I just felt that that's exactly what he did. And yeah, I mean, Damian Lillard was, I didn't even know if he was going to go out there at the end. There was a moment where he was on the sideline, and it was like, I read afterwards that he told Doc Rivers, hey, I'll go out there, I'll be a decoy, because he's banged up. He's banged up right now. And I think the Pacers, they see him out there, you have to attack him at every moment. We'll see what happens as it relates to his health status for Sunday. But yeah, Andrew Nembhard took advantage of that matchup when it mattered most. Dame was nowhere to be found on those offensive rebounds, the defensive rebounds, but it turned into offensive rebounds for us. And I just think that was such a big difference maker in this game. The Pacers had 19 offensive rebounds. That does not sound like the Indiana Pacers to me, but I love every second of it.
Well, they have more size, and they're more athletic than the Bucks, right? I mean, when
Right
I
now,
say more
no
size,
Giannis, that's a big difference.
when I say more size, I don't mean more size than the Bucks. I mean they have more size in their starting five than they used to. I want to make sure I clarify that. But they are more athletic than the Bucks, right? Like Brook Lopez, when he's out there, like
He ain't
he
athletic.
just looks a step too slow. And I
Like a
think
dinosaur.
You'll probably see when Giannis comes back, Lopez not out there and more of a Portis Giannis 4-5 matching up with Indiana, which I think makes more sense. But we'll have to see how healthy Giannis is and if he plays in game 4. Rick Carlisle did allude to that he thinks that there's a good chance he could play in game 4 just because I think everybody's just waiting for it to happen. Now they're down 2-1. If Dame has got this lingering injury, like is there more pressure on him to come back out there? I don't see Middleton having another career high in playoff points. I mean, I think that like he gave like an all out like Chris Middleton great game and they took an L in that, and I think that's a big win for Indiana that Middleton had like probably one of the best games of his entire playoff career, and
Yeah.
it resulted in a loss. Like that's a big thing for the Pacers. But I want to go back to the fourth quarter here, Facci, with about 6 minutes left. You talked about it. Tyrese Haliburton, the only three that he made, it was massive. He gives the Pacers a 2-point lead with 6 minutes left, 99-97. Lillard comes down, of course, gets fouled, makes 2 free throws. Pacers miss a 3, but Tyrese Haliburton gets another offensive rebound and he makes an 11-foot driving floating jump shot. Great job by him. And then, of course, Lillard gets fouled again because that's kind of like the MO of Damian Lillard. And so then the Pacers turn the ball over. Lillard stole the ball. This is where Lillard kind of like clamped up Ty when he tried to drive to the basket. And Bobby Portis makes that 3 in the corner.
I was
And the
worried at that
Bucks
point.
took the lead. You felt the momentum shift. And this is when Myles Turner steps into the play. He hits a huge right corner 3 and ties the game back up. The Bucks call timeout. Middleton comes down and scores. And then they run a pick and roll where Haliburton finds Turner wide open for a dunk.
Beautiful.
And it was those 2 plays by Turner to keep the game within striking distance that I felt like really helped the Pacers stay afloat in this, because Indiana then goes on a little bit of a run here with Nembhard getting fouled, making 1 of 2, and then Siakam getting the and 1 and missing it and making it 109-106. That if he makes that free throw, that totally changes the game. But I know I'm saying a lot. I just wanted to say that stretch there was big, and I want to give a lot of credit to Myles Turner for matching those shots from the free throws from Dame and Chris Middleton's big shot, because I felt like Myles was absolutely incredible offensively shooting wise in this game.
No, he really was. 29 points, that's a career high. 22 points in game 2, that was a playoff career high. He's bringing his A game. But yes, as it relates to that sequence that you talked about, there was a span, it was like 2 or 3 minutes basically where no one scored.
Right.
And it was things were getting really, really nerve-wracking. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a very superstitious person. I changed my shirt. I literally, I was wearing a Pacers polo, and I thought to myself, Pacers have lost the last 2 times I've worn this. Changed. I'm wearing the Pacers finals shirt from 2000. I don't know. I'm not going to take any credit for this game at all, but I needed to get that shirt off. Anyway, going back to it, Pascal Siakam grabs 2 really crucial offensive rebounds during that span. One was the one that saved it. Nembhard gets fouled. Yep. Misses that free throw. Honestly, when the camera turned to him, I looked at his face. I was like, looks a little bit nervous. Hasn't been in like a big moment like this before. He goes 1 of 2. All right, whatever. Siakam gets that rebound. Oh, lays it in and 1. When he missed the free throw, I was like, oh no, like don't do this to us. And it did come back to bite the Pacers, because if they do hit those free throws, even one of them, maybe Middleton's in a spot where he can't, that 3 doesn't tie it up. So you got to hit your free throws. But I just felt that, when you're talking about Turner, the performance that he had tonight, he was rock solid throughout the game. The 29 points are great, but it's not like it was like, oh, he did a lot of his damage early on. He was consistent throughout each quarter, essentially giving the Pacers anywhere from like what felt like 6 to 8 points in most quarters. Like in the third quarter, he poured in 7 points. And then I think in the fourth quarter, he had like 6 or 8 points. It's just like he kept bringing it. And I just feel like for Turner, like this is everything that he's waited for. And now he's stepping up to the plate and being that leader. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier, Siakam carried the Pacers through games 1 and 2. I think that he did everything he could. In game 3, like you needed other people to step up. He can't just score 35 a night. And, while I did think they should have gotten him more touches, I thought Milwaukee defended him very well. But it was guys like Myles Turner that really stepped their game up to the next level. Obviously, we touched on Haliburton. And I just think that overall for the starting 5, I mean, they all range anywhere from 13 to 29 points. I think you had that type of diversity in terms of scoring.
Yeah, I thought the starters were really good in this game, and the bench it had its moments, but I felt like towards the end, like this bench is just not very strong right now, and I hate to say it like that. We love McConnell, we love Shepard, we love Obi Toppin, and I thought Obi Toppin was absolutely awesome in the first half.
First quarter, yeah,
First
yeah.
quarter
First
had
quarter,
like
he had
11
11.
points.
That was huge when
Did
the
you hear the
Pacers
chants
were
on
in
the
that big
TV?
lead. Was that
Did you hear the chants on the TV for Obi Toppin?
a little bit? Yeah. I
The
mean,
whole
in
entire
that first
arena
quarter,
bust out into an "Oh, Obi Toppin." I was
yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, this is so funny."
Who would have thought that?
Yeah.
The way
We're
this
getting
season
Obi
went.
Toppin chance. I think that Tyrese got some MVP chance there at the end on the game winner. And my favorite was when Bobby Portis went to the free throw line and
That was great.
the crowd chanting Bobby sucks. Okay.
Yep.
Ref you suck is a classic when they don't like a call, but like Bobby sucks. I like that Bobby Portis didn't respond to the crowd and just kind of like was like taking it all in. I think that kind of like motivated Bobby. I think honestly, like Bobby likes to be the villain. So I don't know how much that was like great strategically by the Pacers fans to do that, but it was a very cool moment. If you're a Pacer fan, probably being able to chant that just because it's just like after what he said about them being front runners and things like that, whatever. But it was honestly though, you brought up a great point about Pascal Siakam getting those 2 offensive rebounds and the way that Milwaukee defended him. I still don't think they really double teamed him much. Maybe a little bit here and there, but it was just a much more physical brand of defense
Mhm.
from Bobby Portis. And some of those step backs that he was hitting in Milwaukee, he just wasn't hitting in this game. Like they're still tough shots, and he might not have been getting as clean of a look that he had been getting, but still, we thought, from our conversations with different people, like double teams could come and really make it more difficult. But Milwaukee, they really can't afford to double team because they don't have enough defensive help. And I thought one of the nice adjustments that Doc Rivers did make was put Andre Jackson Jr. in the game. His length, his defense was big for the Bucks, kind of cutting down that lead there in the second and the third quarter because they just don't have a lot of room for error. And Pat Bev is a guy that can really play solid defense, but he picked up some stupid fouls on
In a
back to back
row.
plays, like right back
Yep.
to back.
Hmm.
And Derek Kramer from my Pacers looked at me as like, why is he cheering about that? Like that's just stupid. Like it's okay to be physical, but like he was like cheering the fact that he got 2 fouls right there. And then he picked up 2 other cheap ones later and got himself out of the game. I know that he fouled out like at the end of regulation or end of overtime, excuse me, but still, like, why are you cheering about stupid fouls when they're not necessary? Just play defense. So overall, though, I just thought the way that the guys just kind of kept their composure. They never once allowed the Bucks lead to get bigger than 3. That was the largest lead Milwaukee had all night. And I know Indiana had a 19-point lead at one point, but still 3 points. Once Milwaukee kind of got momentum, Indiana never let them run away with it.
And that's the thing, because there was a moment when the Bucks finally took the lead. Like when Bobby Portis hit that three and they went up three, I was like, we had really just led like essentially the whole entire game. Like it's going to be hard to get this lead back, but the Pacers took every single punch on the chin and just kept fighting. They kept matching the baskets, and it was intense, man. It really was. Like this was a game that put me through the works. But this is why you love this team so much, because we have been let down a lot this year. We have. The Pacers have had some really bad losses. But when you finish the job and you get this one done the way that they did, having that Tyrese true game winner. He had a lot of big shots this year where he put teams away. This was a true game winner. Like you mentioned, his first playoff game at home. And I just feel like, what a moment. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is what it's all about. This is why you want to be in the playoffs. Because after a night like this, you're really thinking, I mean, at least I am. I'm confident we can take this Bucks team down. Because I think that the Pacers at times, they haven't put it all together. They've had their moments, but like when they do put it all together, you're looking at a really good Pacers team, specifically in the first half. Indiana at one point had 22 assists on 27 shots.
Yeah.
They were just doing amazing. I mean, you talked about that first quarter a bit. When McConnell hit that three, I just felt like that place was erupting. And
Yeah,
it
it
was
did.
like, that's a playoff atmosphere that everybody wants to be a part of. And I just feel that tonight, when you look at the starters, just about everybody played 40 minutes. I know that this was a game that, obviously went into overtime, but you need to have your best guys out there.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what the Pacers did, and it worked tonight.
Yeah, well, let me just tell you this right here, Facci. The starters tonight, they played 28 minutes and 45 seconds together as a unit. They outscored the Bucks 65-56 with that lineup. The other lineup that played 3 minutes and 17 seconds was one of those first substitution lineups. It was Turner, Haliburton, Toppin, McConnell, and Shepard. They outscored Milwaukee 10-2. Everybody else was around like average numbers: Haliburton, Siakam, Nesmith, McConnell, Shepard, which was a very weird lineup. They played for a minute 30. They outscored them 6-2. And then you had another lineup of Haliburton, Siakam, Toppin, McConnell, and Shepard, and they outscored them by three, 5-2 in a minute 16. But here's where it gets kind of interesting. The worst lineup of the game: Ben Shepard, TJ McConnell, Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, and Jalen Smith.
I
In
knew
3
that was
minutes,
coming.
they got
Yep.
outscored 8-2 by Milwaukee. And then you take out Jalen Smith, put Obi Toppin with that group, and they played a minute 41. That was probably in the fourth quarter. They got outscored by 5. And that's when the Bucks cut it to 2 to start the fourth. So you can kind of see there, like, okay, it's okay to play the bench unit, but you have to be very careful with how many minutes you give them and how long of a leash. And I think that both squads got really tired towards the end of this game. I think the Pacers' conditioning is better than Milwaukee's because they play faster. And I think that's why they were able to get so many offensive rebounds on that one possession. The Bucks were gassed, and they were riding the coattails of Chris Middleton towards the end of the game. I mean, that's just the bottom line to me. And Indiana, I think, was more nervous and just taking some rush shots and kind of forcing from 3 because they had decent looks, but not great ones. But I'll just say this. You're right. They have to be much more strategic in terms of what lineups they play and when they play them. I know that the Siakam, Nesmith with the bench unit worked last game in Milwaukee, but I don't think, they adjusted for that. So now what adjustment are you going to make to match that? Even though you won, you still have to make adjustments, in my opinion, because you cannot go that long and be that stagnant with, that offensive group. I just don't feel like there's enough creation out there. And maybe you try to stagger where you at least have one of Nembhard or Haliburton out there at all times.
I think that is really important. Just touched on Jalen Smith real quick. We didn't see him at all in game 2. I don't know if we're going to see him in game 4. The Jalen Smith minutes have not been good at all. Just 3 minutes. There was nothing in those 3 minutes that said he needs to play 4 minutes. So I don't think we're going to see him. And for Obi Toppin in specific, the first quarter, he was 5 of 5. He finished the game after that going 1 of 6. And I just felt that, just missed a free throw at one point. He had a couple fouls. I wasn't in love with his minutes after the first quarter. So yeah, from the bench, I don't think there was a lot there outside of that first quarter. So that's gonna be. I think they will be better moving forward. I think they're gonna have to be better moving forward. But I think that when you just look at the rest of this team, you saw just a lot of hustle. I mean, from an offensive rebounding standpoint, Siakam had 4, Nesmith had 4, Haliburton had 5 offensive rebounds in this game. Andrew Nembhard had 3 offensive rebounds. That's crazy. That truly is really crazy. And that's that hustle and heart that we saw. So I think that, hey, if you could survive with Siakam scoring 17 points on 7 of 17 shooting, and Haliburton on the flip side has 18 points on 8 of 22 shooting, I think you're going to be just all right. And I think that we're going to see one of those great Haliburton performances from an offensive side where maybe, he does score 25 points or more. But the one thing I just want to emphasize is, like, we've seen in the first 2 games for New York, Jalen Brunson has shot the ball so poorly. Like 29 shots, he was going like 8 of 29, but the Knicks won, and they didn't care what he shot. Yeah. A night like tonight is just like, Tyrese, we have faith. And I know he's taken a lot of heat so far in this series. We're up 2-1. He leads the playoffs in assists. He had a triple-double tonight. He hit the biggest shot when we needed it most. Give the guy some grace. All right, it's his first playoff series. He's going to be fine, and what we're seeing tonight is a true star in the making. But this team, they have players that step up when you need them most. And I felt like for Milwaukee, when you look at their team, in specific, We got to touch on Damian Lillard. Yeah, he's banged up. He got banged up in the first quarter, like we mentioned. His first half was tough. I know he was
Yeah.
battling that injury. He was 2 of 10. The Pacers had gotten torched by Damian Lillard in the first half. That was not the case. He ends up obviously getting it together. He finishes with 28 points, but the 28 points you could live with. It's still less than what he scored in games 1 and game 2.
Yeah, I mean, Damian Lillard is, it was kind of like a flip the script type thing. So it was like he had a bad first half this time and had a good second half. But what really kept him afloat, he only shot 6 of 20 from the field in this game. He had 12 free throws, and he
Yeah.
was 12 of 12 from the free throw line. So that's kind of what kept him afloat. And he had some big dagger threes
They're
there
big.
in the fourth quarter to kind of cut into Indiana's 10-point lead that they had established there at the end of, at the end of the third quarter. Was it 10 or 7? I think it was 7 because Middleton.
It was 7.
Yeah,
Yep.
because that close of the third was so bad when the Pacers got that steal from Nesmith, and then he just threw the ball right away. Um, just a major bummer right there. And there was just so many critical moments there where I felt like the Pacers, especially in the second and the third quarters, and really some in the fourth, they kind of got stuck playing Milwaukee's pace.
Mhm.
Milwaukee was doing a really good job of slowing them down after the Pacers got out to a big lead. And I think part of that is the Pacers, being a young team, took their foot off the gas. I think that they saw Dame go down and things like that. And then they were just like, man, you know what? We got this. We're vibing right now. And there
Never
was a
worked well
play.
for us.
Obi Toppin made a three. And he starts celebrating and like kissing like his fingers to the crowd, just what these guys do. Like it's
Yep.
fun, whatever. Carlisle, as soon as he sees him, he touches him and says, "Get back on defense." And the next play, he gets the rebound, kicks it ahead to Ben Shepherd. Ben Shepherd drives on Brook Lopez, hits the reverse layup, and gets the and one. That was the first free throw the Pacers had in the second quarter, in the second or the first half,
Yeah.
and
That was alarming.
Milwaukee had like 12. It
Mhm.
was ridiculous. I mean, the fact that it was 16 free throws to 4 at half, I know that it
Okay.
balanced out in the second half, but it was ridiculous. And I think that Milwaukee would have been probably down closer to 20 if they had officiated the game, in my opinion, more fairly. Yes, did the Pacers foul shooters when they were shooting the ball? 100%. But the fact that you have Ed Malloy calling TJ McConnell for a defensive foul when Chris Middleton clearly sticks his butt out to try
That
to,
was bad.
yeah, how do you
Yeah.
call that in the moment a defensive foul? Pacers have to waste a challenge because you just missed a blatant call. And Middleton did that earlier
Mhm.
to Myles Turner when they gave Myles Turner the foul and on that moving screen there, whatever, like when he tried to like climb over and get out to Brook
Yeah.
Lopez. It was one that I think it was a little bit more questionable, but like even then Middleton kind of stuck his butt out. And Middleton was frustrated because he was in the first half, especially when they were down so much. He like takes his mouthpiece out and just like launches it at the stanchion. Of course, the referees don't see that. To me, like I saw Bucks fans and some of our Bucks friends comments saying, "Man, the Bucks, the referees wanted the Bucks to lose this game," and I'm thinking
Mhm.
to myself, "Are you kidding me?"
No.
Go back and watch the kind of calls that Dame was getting throughout this game that
Those are
nobody on Indiana
frustrating.
was even getting close to. The amount of times I saw Haliburton, especially Haliburton and Siakam, getting hit when they were shooting the ball, never getting calls like that.
I think the officiating was just inconsistent tonight. I don't think it favored, either. Yeah, you mentioned before, the Bucks definitely had way more free throws in the first half, but Dame was like whistle hunting. And
Oh yeah,
actually it ended up biting him in the butt later on because I felt like he took a shot that he was not trying to make. He took a shot late in the game that he was trying to get a foul on, and he missed solidly. Pacers got a rebound. He was doing a lot of complaining. Dame was doing way too much complaining to the refs, and he should have been getting back on D. Not that he probably would have made a difference on defense, but at the same point, you want to get back. But I also think another thing is, think about this: the Pacers bench, not a game that you're thrilled about. I mean, they end up scoring about 28 points off the bench. Milwaukee had 6 points, 6 points
yeah,
off the bench. Their bench is giving them close to nothing
yeah,
right now. So that's something where it just shows that this was not the Pacers' best game, but they still put up 121 points. Yes, it did take overtime. This was a slower paced game after the Pacers' explosion in the first quarter, but you just got to give them credit for not backing down, not folding when times got tough. because some of the shots that Middleton was hitting, those could have been back-breaking shots
Mm-hmm.
that just kind of snaps your spirit. I know how I felt. Like I said, I was a nervous wreck. For these players, it's easy to just say, "Oh, come on." Like, what is that? And you still just get caught up and start talking about that. They moved on. And I just think that, hey, we survived. We're up 2-1. This is the first time the Pacers have had a lead. I mean, since 2018. It's when they went up 2-1 in that series against the Cavs. Or I think it was 2-1 either way. They went up in that
Yeah,
series.
they went up 2-1.
I know it didn't work out, but on a night like tonight, man, I feel like the sky's the limit for this team once they really do put it all together. This isn't supposed to be the year, but you start to look and you start to say, well, I don't know. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna get too ahead of myself and say
I'm not
sky's the
saying
limit,
beat
right?
the Celtics or we want Boston or anything like that
I don't
later
even know if
on.
they can beat the Knicks or the Sixers in the next round.
I don't know. We'll
They're
see.
they're I mean, they got their butts kicked in game 1. They barely win game 3 at home. They had a great game in game 2. The Pacers are just too inconsistent for me
Very
to really
inconsistent,
believe in them, right? And their shooting, I think everything hinges so much on their shooting.
of
They
course.
were able to win in spite of that tonight because both teams shot bad. And I think that this Milwaukee team without Giannis, like you got to remember, like it's you get so caught up in like who's on the court right now, you forget one of the top 3 players in the league is
Yeah,
not playing in this series right now.
it's a
And
big
if he
loss.
was, it feels like Indiana would probably be down at least 2-1,
At
maybe
least, at
three
least.
zero.
And
So
it's very possible. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to grab an umbrella while you try and rain on my parade right now. But
true.
no, look, I just think that as a fan base, we deserve to feel good at this moment
Absolutely.
because you could make an argument, and if Giannis is healthy, whatever, the Pacers won one game in the playoffs. That would be a step forward. And I know that's sad to even say,
No.
but if they can win this series, I just think no matter what happens next round, you go into this offseason saying, we got something here. We
Yeah.
got something. The experience that we gained is so essential. Now let's build on it. And now let's actually have real expectations. Like going into the season, people, I remember there was a tweet on Twitter. Someone asked Tyrese, what's your goal? He said, playoffs. Not
Yeah.
winning the playoffs,
Young
make
Simba.
the playoffs. Exactly. Young Simba said, make the playoffs. Now that goal next year, I don't want to hear anybody say, make the playoffs. No, it's we want to go on a run. And I think that we're starting to see them build towards what could eventually be a run. Even if it's not this year, this team, they're hungry.
I mean, I'm not trying to run in your parade because I picked the Pacers to win this series. I know you did too.
It's
We
wet
picked them in
here.
6, right?
Yeah, no,
So
we did. We did.
I just want to tamper expectations. I don't want to say like this is a title contending team.
No,
I,
no,
I
no,
think
no, no.
if you look at their bench, it's pretty obvious. I don't think this is a team that can get to an NBA Finals. I know that, Boston, like they're a team that lost to Miami in game 2. Like, I don't think that the Eastern Conference is so overwhelming where you feel like, oh, we're going to get creamed by this team besides Boston, probably. But even then, like, they've had their moments against Boston this year. They've been able to find cracks in their game. So I just feel like overall, this is a Pacers team that you just got to enjoy this moment while you can. And I think you're
You
right.
have to.
Like these wins are so important to just team building and team success. Aside from what happens, like if Indiana loses this series somehow in 7 games or 6 games because Giannis comes back and the Bucks experience like they're an experienced team. They don't get rattled. And I felt like they didn't look rattled tonight, and they knew that Middleton was their guy, so they rode him down the stretch. And Chris Middleton to me, like the fact that he's like 35 years old doing this still, like he's just an incredible player to
Yeah.
me. Rick Carlisle said like probably one of the most underappreciated players, and I kind of agree with it because you
Mhm.
don't think about Middleton because he has a lot of injuries, but like the fact that he's been injured all season long and been able to do what he did tonight, it just kind of shows you like he knows what it takes to get to that next level. And for guys like Tyrese, Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, this is all so new to them. So they're still trying to kind of adjust, figure things out on the fly, take it all in one game at a time, not get too high, not get too low. It's just basketball at the end of the day, right? But like it's important basketball, and you can feel how much different it is based on how that fan base responded. So I'll just say this, Turner tonight to me was the difference maker for Indiana.
Yes.
He was so good, so locked in. The step back 3 that he hit to start the game, He just looked like a guy that was a man on a mission, kind of like we talked about with Siakam in the last game, and really took advantage of Milwaukee being in drop and making the right reads, not forcing stuff, but hitting the timely shots when he needed to. And Siakam, he had 17 points. He didn't have the game that he's had the last two, but he's drawing so much attention and he's a willing passer. He's not just going to force up shots just to force up shots. So to me, this is a great team building win. They can build off of it. They can be up 3-1 after game 4. I believe that, but I just don't want myself or fans included to get like, I want you to be excited, but I don't want you to be like to the point where you're expecting more than what realistic expectations should be, and then you're kind of let down if they don't reach them. I think that they have big goals of getting there, right? That's what every player should say and do. But they're not going to say, oh, our goal is to get to the first round of the playoffs and make it a competitive series. They're not going to say that. You don't want them to
No.
say that. But I think as a fan base, just seeing this team fight the way they fought all season long to get here, that should be what you're excited about the most. Like, just, man, like a proud dad of a kid that just accomplished, riding a bicycle without training wheels, something like that.
Hey, no, I hear you. My expectations at this point are beat the Bucks, beat them, win this series, because I know now you can. You have game 4 in Cambridge. The fans already showed. I mean, there's a lot of people right now, I'm telling you, that want to be a part of what they saw on TV tonight. And they are going to come out. That crowd is going to be rowdy. That is must see basketball. And I think that for right now, I think that we should have the expectation to say, hey, this series is not done. It's far from done, but we can win this series. The Bucks, they're banged up right now. Maybe Giannis comes back. I don't know. It sounds like that would be forcing it. Do they force Giannis back if Dame's hurt as well? It's like, are you going to really go all in right now just to try and get out of the first round? We got to see. But at the same point, I just think that the Pacers have shown when times get tough, they're not throwing in the towel. And to me, that says a lot. And I think that like I said earlier, we've had a lot of bad losses this year, a lot of letdowns, a lot of we need a wake-up call. Will they wake up? Hey, in the moment, they woke up, and it didn't take a loss to be able to do it. That lead, that what was a 19-point lead, disappeared, gone. And the Pacers found a way to come back and regain that lead, even if it took every single second left in this game to accomplish it. I'm proud of this team. I really am. And for the 6-year drought that happened between playoff wins of 2018 to now, I'm not going to say it was all worth it, but I'm going to say I really appreciate this win really bad.
I do too. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think the electricity in the arena, especially in the first quarter, because the fans just came out, man. They were so electric. I couldn't talk about it enough on Twitter. I'm just sitting here thinking, this group of fans is incredible. So every person that was at the game, if you're listening to this, you played a massive role in the Pacers winning this game. It was
Six
your
man stuff.
energy. It was your, just positivity, believing in this team that I think kind of carried them to a victory. There is no greater fan base, in my opinion, in the NBA than Pacer fans. They are passionate, and they know that, what, people might be doubting us. People might have us, as you know, the team that's less likely to win. They're going to talk about our inexperience. We don't care. We trust in our guys. And, whether it's Pascal Siakam doing what he's doing in Milwaukee, or it's Tyrese Haliburton hitting game winners, or Myles Turner telling the fans, if you don't like Indiana basketball, this is what it's all about. And I'll just say this. I thought it was an awesome game. And Derek Kramer from iPacers, I think he said it best. The 3 by Nesmith felt very reminiscent to Travis Best game-winning 3 in the Bucks 5-game series, because Travis Best was horrific from 3 in that game, just missing shot after shot after shot. And it was like, can you please stop shooting? Pass the ball. And then when the game needed it with the shot clock expiring, boom, in that left corner, Travis Best drilled that 3 left-handed. And 24 years later, Aaron Nesmith in the same spot, in the same arena, against the same team, just only in game 3 versus game 5.
That's pretty cool stuff. And we won't know in this moment where this win ranks in terms of playoff moments. Well, I'll tell you right now, as I'd say within the last 10 years, it's number one to me because Pacers haven't accomplished much in the playoffs in the last 10 years. So easily goes to number one, in my opinion. I mean, I think 2017, look, there were some good moments in that. You can go back and forth. I mean, Oladipo in that series against the Cavs was definitely electric. For me, at least when I think in quick glance over the last 10 years, this is what stands out to me most. And then you can make an argument over the last 20 years. I mean, it's somewhere up there. I just truly think the fact that it was like Haliburton, that whole thing, just his first playoff game in front of the home crowd, like you couldn't have scripted it any better than that because there was the struggle. And then in the end, there was that, you saw that light at the end of the tunnel. We all got to celebrate this. Everybody, you got to appreciate this. Last thing I'm going to say on that, there's people in my mentions that were just like, Pacer fans even, it's just one playoff game. Guys, if you can't get excited about this, sorry, you're rooting for the wrong team. You're rooting for the wrong team. If a championship is everything or nothing to you, like there's no in between, you're going to be let down because on nights like this, you got to appreciate the journey in order to get there. No one just comes into the playoffs and wins a ring blindly. That does not happen in 7-game series. It's just way too hard. This is the journey, and you got to appreciate it.
You have to appreciate it. It was terrific. I'm excited to see what happens on Sunday. How do the Pacers bounce back from being up 2-1? Do they get greedy? Do they take game 4, go back to Milwaukee with a 3-1 lead with a 3 games chance to win 1 game to win this series? Or do they get comfortable? Do they get excited about this win and come in and lay an egg? I don't know, but they didn't shoot the ball well in this game. So you're hoping that they at least
Gives
have
me
one
hope.
game of shooting. And Rick Carlisle said it best. Every playoff game is a different entity of itself. There's always going to be things that change and ebb and flows of the game. So I felt like, Pat Beverly had some really good moments in this game. I thought Bobby Portis had some big shots in this game, and I thought he played pretty solid defense, and they were carried by Damon Middleton. There's no doubt about it. I thought Andre Jackson Jr. had some nice moments. Now they got film on him, kind of see how they can counteract that. They only have one day to prepare. Can the Pacers kind of play their pace and maybe make things a little bit harder for Milwaukee, knowing that they only had one day to rest and Dame and Middleton might be still a little bit banged up. I mean, I just feel like things are kind of potentially in the Pacers' favor here for
They
some
are.
other some other different or what I'm trying to say variables that could happen, variables that could happen in this next game. I'm getting tired. It's about 11:30, ladies and gentlemen. So sorry if my speech is just a little bit off right now, but I am excited though for Pacer fans to be able to experience this, like you said, Fachu. They have not been able to experience winning playoff basketball since that
No.
17-18 series. So it went 7 games. Cleveland ended up pulling it out. Indiana had a 2-1 lead in that series after the Bojan comeback game because the Pacers got down by like 15, 20 points at one point to that Cavaliers team, but they had a great comeback. You know, it was kind of reminiscent tonight where the Bucks had the comeback, but Indiana held them off. So just a lot of different parallels you can make here. But overall, I just think Indiana, their resiliency to not give up was the difference to me. And I think you're seeing a Rick Carlisle coach team kind of rising to the occasion. The late game execution, right? Like he called timeout to advance the ball instead of letting them just run the ball up the court and try to get something going. Like set up a play design. Talked about like they almost fouled Middleton there in the fourth quarter when they were up by 3 points after Nesmith hit 2 clutch free throws, which were just incredible. You know, it was one of those things where maybe you foul Brook Lopez when he's trying to do the dribble handoff with Middleton.
It was a good
So
play that Doc drew up. I
yeah,
definitely got to give him credit for that.
but I mean, honestly, it's just like give Middleton the ball. Like we knew
I
that
thought they
he
were
was.
going to pass him directly. And the
Yeah,
Pacers did play good
they
defense
did.
on Middleton. It was just like he had that, like, that 1 or 2 inches of space that he was able to let it fly. And I just felt like I was stunned.
Yeah.
Each time he hit those shots, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I had friends texting me, like, what's going on? I was like, guys, I can't do this right now. I
Yeah.
can't. Like, please, I don't want to like start talking about the ins and outs of the game when there's a couple of seconds left in that. And there was a lot of people chirping when things got rough. When the Pacers won, I didn't hear from any of them. So classic stuff. That's how it always goes. But I just think that the last thing that I'm going to really end it on is, when Halliburton hits that shot, how could he not have the confidence moving forward to just be like, shake off the misses because that next shot could be your biggest. And that's something that I think is a like a life-changing thing. Like I felt like, he's had game winners before, but like not on a stage like this. This
Yeah.
is something that gives you the confidence moving forward, in my opinion, I think for life.
Second game winner over Pat Bev, right?
Yep. Second one. It doesn't matter what city, what jersey Pat Bev's wearing. Tyrese is going to hit a game winner over you. All right.
Yeah.
You can't
And
run from it.
we'll hear Pat Beverly probably talk about this on the podcast at some point. But
I'm,
it's
I'm
a great
curious to
point
hear
though.
what he says.
The confidence from Tyrese moving forward, hopefully this does kind of catapult him into more of a confident state of mind, who definitely looked, like we talked earlier, more aggressive, looking for a shot, led the team in shot attempts. No complaints there from anybody with him not shooting the ball enough. But at the same time, when you see him shooting the ball a lot, it's a different game. And if he hits a couple of those threes that he missed, maybe you feel better about it. Nembhard spotting up like 4 feet behind the 3-point line
Mm.
still doesn't make any sense to me. I was like, that's a terrible shot, Nembhard. What are we doing? Obviously, shot clock was expiring when he had to shoot it, but like, why are they lining him up there so far out? I mean, that's not his game. He had some big shots, but yeah, I just really felt like this was a well balanced game once again. And the Pacers, they took care of business when they needed to. They found a way to hold off Middleton and his incredible game and Dame's incredible, second half and the way he kind of came back and just put a lot of pressure on Indiana, especially drawing fouls. I just thought Indiana was composed, and they've got a real chance to make this a 3-1 series lead and put all the pressure on Milwaukee to close, to claw back and make this a series before they get, potentially knocked out in the first round once again. Not saying it's going to happen, but that's what could happen if they win this game.
Anything could happen. This Pacers team does not do well when they get comfortable. I think when things go to their head and people start to talk about them a little bit, that is when like we said, they take their foot off the gas a little bit. But you just hope that they have that killer instinct, smelling some blood in the water, knowing that this is a Milwaukee team that probably isn't going to respond as well with just about one day off of rest in between. They are banged up. The Pacers have to be able to capitalize and attack. And I do think that we're going to get a Pacers team that's going to feed off of that home crowd. And I think that that's going to make a very, very big difference. So if you're listening to this, please, if you can make it to Gainbridge, show up and show out. Tell your friends, be loud, make a difference because we need you.
Absolutely, Flash. Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Setting the Pace. It really does mean a lot. And for those that I got to meet, Ricky Kelly was one of the guys I got to meet tonight at the game. Longtime listener of this show. Thank you so
Great
much
guy.
for meeting me up, at halftime so we could say hey. And somebody on Twitter was videoing me on the court, videoing the players. That was pretty funny. Thank you for videoing me and calling me out. But anyway, if you guys are at the game and you happen to like see me there or you want to meet up, just let me know. I'm always happy to talk with you guys because truly this podcast does not exist without the fans. So you
Big
guys listening
facts.
to us talk about this team, we wouldn't be doing it as much or as consistent if it wasn't for the amount of response we get for you guys, and telling us that you enjoy our conversation. So anyway, I apologize, Facci. I took a little bit of time there to say that, but I would love for you to tell everybody where they can find us at on social media.
Absolutely. So you can find us on Twitter at PacersPod STP. You can find Alex on Twitter at AlexGoldenNBA. I can be found on Twitter at _FACCI. You can find us on Instagram at PacersPodSTP. You can find us on Facebook at Setting the Pace. You can find us on TikTok, Setting the Pace. And Alex, tell them where they can check us out on YouTube.
Ladies and gentlemen, go to youtube.com/Setting the Pace, a Pacers podcast, where you can find all of our video content, especially all of our playoff content. Please subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comment section. And if you haven't already, check out the link in the description on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify, and find our storefront at tpublic.com. Setting the Pace, a Pacers podcast is the name on there. And just follow the link in the description because you can see all of our merchandise there. I think there is a store-wide sale going on right now too, once again. So everything is back to $16 off. I know they had jumped to $22, or not $16 off, $16 total. It was $22 without the discount. So make sure you guys get your merch there. I want to thank everybody that's bought the merch already and sent pictures in. I know Rooster did a mock version of his that he had to turn inside out because he was a little bit, too much with an F the Bucks, right? But I
Classic Rooster.
respect the hustle. And Aaron from Texas, Houston, Texas. He bought a Smear the Deer shirt, so thank you for your support. And those that haven't sent a picture in but have done it, thank you so much. But if you want to check it out, do that, Facci, would be great. But anyway, if you're excited for the Pacers, be back in action Sunday night with a chance to go up 3-1 over the Milwaukee Bucks, then hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.